Welcome to the last episode of Stopwatch for 1979. As you know, a regular feature of the program has been visits to various parts of the area we live in. Today's first item comes from Milton, an hour's drive south of Nowra.
Australia, advancing with rapid wing stride, shall plant among nations her banners in pride. Those words were written by a man born near this farm on April 18th, 1839. He also said that in the far future, Australia would be independent, a shelter of freedom and the boast of the world. Henry Kendall was obviously very proud of the country he lived in. The country around Milton and Ulladulla was very different when Henry Kendall was a boy. The census of 1841 said that only 56 families lived in the area. Henry Kendall's grandfather was the first man to settle here. The Reverend Thomas Kendall lived in New Zealand for 11 years as a missionary. After teaching in Valparaiso, Chile for 2 years, he came to New South Wales, where in 1827 he was granted land.
I proceeded without delay on one of my boats to a boat harbour called by the natives Nulla-Dolla. From thence I sailed about 5 miles northward until I came to an almost inaccessible creek called by the native Narrawalli.
In less than 2 years, Thomas Kendall had 2,480 acres of land. He cleared 80 acres of that land. He had 4 horses and 72 cattle. He built a house, dairy huts and stockyards. He built 4 miles of fence, had 4 convicts and 30 servants.
In 1832, Thomas Kendall drowned off Jervis Bay when his 18-ton boat was wrecked.
This memorial is in the place where Henry Kendall was born. On this site once stood a simple bark hut. Henry's life wasn't easy. His father died when he was 13 and he went to Wollongong. But Henry wasn't happy on the McNally property either. So when he was 16, he went to sea as a cabin boy on his uncle's whaling ship.
The whaling trip was the only time he left Australia. As he grew older, he became known as Australia's leading poet.
Whoop-a-gee scarlet. Whoop-a-diamond-gee scarlet. Whoop-a!
Poor Bullocky Bill in the circle select of the scholars, he hasn't a place. But he walks like a man with his forehead erect and he looks at God's day in the face. For rough as he seems, he would shudder to wrong a dog with the loss of a hair. That's how Henry Kendall described the men who drove bullock wagons in the 1800s. And here, under the shadow of Pigeon House, you can still see bullock drays in action.
Jackie, whoop, whoa! Yeah. What's that? What's what? Jackie, whoop, Pete?
In 1910, the pupils of Milton Public School marked the place where Henry Kendall was born. They did it with a simple pile of stones. At the school today stands another memorial. It's a reminder that one of Australia's first poets and writers was born on the south coast, near Milton and Ulladulla. Bronwyn, how does it make you feel to go to a school that has a connection with somebody like Henry Kendall?
It makes me feel really good because an old school, most of the old people in the community have been there, and a new school, it's really, nobody's been there, knows much about it.
It's closer, you think, to the community?
Yeah, much.
Oh, it just feels good knowing that there was a poet here and it's not just a normal school with nothing good about it, and it's got something here that you can remember.
Originally, when that item was written, we planned to shoot only a short section on bullock drays. But once we started filming, we found it very difficult to stop. You'll see the result shortly. Don't go away. When we were asked to show how television programs are made, Our first thought was terrific, easy, so simple. Unfortunately, when you work with equipment every day, you become a little blind to the really marvellous achievements that some machines are. This is especially true of television. Electronics are an everyday part of our lives: buttons, flashing lights and computer technology. Machines like this are the brains of television. They store the information that belongs to every television program. Every stopwatch you see takes weeks of preparation and production. Parts of every program are stored on videotape and put together later. So you see, the videotape machine is like a time machine. I'm stored on tape, and at the same time, I can be here. If I want to, I can even talk to myself. And answer myself too. Nigel, why don't you explain what videotape is? Videotape is like the tape you use in a cassette player. It's 5 centimetres wide. That's around 2 inches. It's a long, thin roll of polyester plastic with a magnetic coating. The recording machine translates the pictures or sound into a magnetic pattern, which is stored there on the tape. And that's how I came to be here. Isn't that right, Nigel? Absolutely. And of course, he's stored just in case I want to use him again. And that's how I came to be here. Isn't that right, Nigel? Oh, repeats himself. The many different parts of a television program have to be put together. That's where editing comes in. We've put together some short pieces to show you just what editing can do. In the first one, you'll see some animation that lasts for 15 seconds. The clock on your screen will show you how long it takes us to do it. As I said, that animation lasted 15 seconds. It took us 19.5 minutes to produce. We're going to finish now with one of my favourite parts from Shakespeare's Henry IV. And by using a videotape machine and editing, it's every actor's dream. I play all 3 characters. Call in the sheriff. Now, Master Sheriff, what is your will with me?
First, pardon me, my lord. A hue and cry hath followed certain men unto this house.
What men?
One of them is well known, my lord, a gross fat man, as fat as butter.
The man, I do assure you, is not here, for I myself have at this time employed him. And, Sheriff, I engage my word to thee that I will, by tomorrow dinner time, send him to answer thee, or any other man, for anything he shall be charged withal. And so I entreat thee, leave the house.
I will, my lord. There are 2 gentlemen have in this robbery lost 300 marks.
It may be so. And if he have robbed these men, he shall be answerable, and so farewell.
Good night, my noble lord.
I think it is good morrow, is it not?
Indeed, my lord, I think it be 2 o'clock.
This oily rascal is known as well as St. Paul's. Peter, call him forth. Falstaff, my lord, fast asleep behind the arras, snorting like a horse. Hark, how hard he fetches breath. Peter, search his pockets. What hast thou found? Nothing but papers, my lord. Let's see what they be. Read them. Item, a capon, 2 shillings and 2pence. Item, sauce, 4pence. Sack, 2 gallons, 5 shillings and 8pence. Anchovies and sack after supper, 2 shillings and 6pence. Bread, halfpenny. Oh, monstrous, monstrous appetite.
Well, that last line just about sums you up, Nigel.
What a terrible thing to say. It's interesting, though, isn't it?
It is. It's very interesting, but it's so hard to understand. There's a lot more to it than just that.
You see things like those animation pieces and you don't realise just how long it takes to do.
That's right. It takes an awful lot of time.
Yeah.
Anyway, in a moment, we'll be back to see our next Environment Action segment on Mogo.
16? It's his first,
19.
it's his first time up.
Oh, look, I don't understand, boys.
Yeah, I'm the pilot. I follow the rules.
Does he? I don't believe you.
Yes.
He would.
Our life is in his hands.
No.
Uh-oh.
Everybody in? Just put me out.
No, we have to do practice things.
Oh.
We can practice now.
I think we should wait for the boss.
1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000.
Help, help. I've got to look around.
Yeah.
Oh, this stuff's heavy. Does it feel much lighter once you're coming down?
Oh, you don't know? When you're coming down,
Can I take this much time?
Yep,
When I'm up there?
right, yep, I'll heap of time. Righto, lean over the strut a bit more. Righto, and go.
1,000, 2,000.
Once that plane took off, the excitement and tension really gave me butterflies. The step and the time that I knew we had to step onto looked so small. I know that I was worried. I know Meredith was worried. But now just judge for yourself if you think Linda was worried. And poor old Linda was the first to jump. Now it's my turn. You'll hear my comments as I jump, and you'll see Meredith's jump 2 minutes after mine.
There goes my chute. I look up. Oh, look, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And it's an incredible feeling. It's just unbelievable. I'm just suspended here around 2,000 feet up in the air, and all my nerves have just about disappeared. I'm just feeling quite incredible. I think I'll try a little experimental turn here. My chute's looking good. I can see the clubhouse now. So I turn a bit more around to the right. I think Linda may well be on the ground by now. I certainly can't see her. Oh, look, it's just the most amazing experience. I can feel a little bit of light wind in my hair. Well, on my helmet at any rate. I can see the freeway. All these billabongs just dotting the countryside. As I said before, you really get the impression somebody's gone berserk, a giant on a pogo stick. I try another right pull on my toggle. Take me around a bit. Release it.
Good fun?
Oh, gosh.
I think I'll try another experimental pull. Wow. I don't know, I think I'll have to travel a bit. So it's round to the left. And that feels better. Yeah, that feels terrific. And I'm heading down now towards the drop zone. I'll have to try and remember around where 200 feet is. But it's very hard to estimate, actually. It looked quite obvious from the plane, but it doesn't appear so obvious now. I can feel the wind in my chute. I'm looking up now. I think there goes the third jumper, which is Meredith. Yeah, that's Meredith, and there goes the instructor with her. And we're coming down now towards the ground. Which appears to be looming up quite rapidly. Quite rapidly indeed. I pull over. Oh, look, this is incredible. Everything's looking quite normal now. But I'm heading down, getting pretty close, actually. Getting very close indeed. I think I'm about to land. And I'm down.
Oh, she landed on the bottom.
Wow, that was fantastic. The first 3 seconds are a little bit terrifying, but not nearly as terrifying as I expected. And from there on down, you don't even feel like you're falling. It just feels not even like you're floating. It just feels like you're standing still. You've got no judge whatsoever of the height, so when you do come into land, unfortunately, you don't know how far away from the ground you are. And I did give myself a bit of a jar, but it was fantastic. It was really, really great.
It was really exciting watching that film. It brought all the emotions of doing the jump back to the surface.
I'm glad we've got the film to prove it.
It was an incredible experience, though, really.
Most amazing experience I've ever had.
I think if there's one word for it, the word has to be exhilaration.
Right.
I'd say, would you go again?
Oh, certainly would.
Planning on it?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. And, of course, we'd like to thank all the people who made it possible. Sher Hannington, who took us up there and calmed our fears on the way.
And I'd like to thank Graham Hill, our instructor, who had so much patience on that day. He was just wonderful.
It could have been a lot harder. He made it rather easy.
He made it so easy.
If you think you might like to try parachuting, there are a couple of important things to remember. The first one is that you'll have to be at least 16. The best way to organise a jump is to be in the scouting movement. It's part of one of their badge courses. We hope you've enjoyed Stopwatch Goes Parachuting. I know we did.
We certainly did.
See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
This is the main street of Kamarooka, about 20 kilometres from Bega. It isn't a town, though. This main group of buildings is in reality part of a farm, or to use a better word, an estate. This church is part of the estate, and it should be familiar to most of you. If you don't recognise it straight away, maybe this will remind you.
There's a place God must have favoured. A valley of rich green and gold. It was natural for man to choose this valley for a special purpose. The Bega Valley, where the finest dairy cattle graze on lush green grass. There's only one Bega cheese. Choose it and taste the gold.
It was very appropriate for that commercial to feature Kamarooka Estate, because for many years, Kamarooka cheese was famous throughout Australia.
Sir Robert Lucas Tooth bought this property in 1864. It took sheer hard work to turn it into a prosperous dairy property and cheese-making centre.
Sheep are now as important as dairy cows to the estate, which brings me to my reason for being here, to see what's involved in the herding of sheep.
I'm talking to Susan McCarthy, whose dad, Bert, owns Jock, who we've just seen working. Susan, what can you tell me about sheepdogs?
They're very hard workers. They train hard. You mostly keep them with the trainer so they can understand all the signals. And
What kind of dogs are they?
Kelpies.
And when does your dad get them?
Oh, when they're about a month old.
And when does the training start?
6 months. When they're 6 months.
And what's involved in that training?
Whistling, speaking to them, making them understand all the signals.
I'm told that when your dad gets them when they're puppies, you're not allowed to play with them.
No, because they'd rather children to play with them instead of working, but you're not allowed to play with them, you've got to keep them away.
That must be hard.
Yeah.
Bert, that was a wonderful demonstration of control between the sheep and the dogs. Kelpies, intelligent dogs?
Very intelligent.
That's why they're chosen?
That's why they're the breed half or sheepdog.
You start training them at 6 months old. What sort of training do you go through?
Generally, the first thing to do is obedience. Make them do what you want them to do and always keep them under control and then they listen to your command.
Right. And the commands, what sort of different commands are there?
Oh, well, I generally use a whistle, and a sharp whistle to my dogs means a quick action, and a slow whistle behind or from one side to another, which the dog works out for themselves. If they see the sheep going one way and you give them a sharp whistle, they know that they're to go the other way.
Right, and you've got a vocal command you have too?
I have a command of, if they're not just doing what they should be doing, I give them a vocal command to bring them into line.
Right. And they're very obedient to you?
They are, yes.
Would they work for anybody else?
No, no one else.
No one else? I suppose that's important too.
That's right too. They won't even ride in the truck. If another driver gets in this truck, my dogs will jump out.
They jump out?
Yeah.
Right, very loyal.
That's right.
I must say, I was very impressed by the intelligence and hard-working attitude of Burch's dogs. This is just one aspect of life on an estate like Kamarooka, just south of Bega. I'm sure if you come along, you'd find it as interesting as I did, and you'll have a really great day.